Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into 6.8.11. Today we are going to talk about fear. Day one of my vulnerability challenge is a very big one. Fear is a very present entity in my life. It has always been from the day I was born till now, but more so in the last 6 years. But fear has done a lot of good for me as well, and I think that's very important to discuss and reveal today, is that fear is what got me to where I am today. Fear is what fueled my recovery and got me to walk again. And without fear, we don't have anything to overcome, and without fear, we cannot set any goals. So today I really wanted to talk about, the fears that accompany having a spinal cord injury, and the fears of when I woke up, and the fears I have today. Some of them have been consistent through these past 6 years, and some of them come and go. But most importantly, I always tell people that I never cried when I found out that I had paralysis. But just because I didn't show that emotion does not mean that I was not fearful. Because believe me, fear was very present the past 6 years and still is. So to start things off, I think waking up and being told you're paralyzed, one of the first fears that crossed my mind was, would I be dependent on someone to take care of me the rest of my life? How did this work? Would my mom need to stay with me and bathe me and change me and do everything for me for the rest of my life? Would I be stuck in a wheelchair, just completely dependent on someone driving me around? Would I be dependent on wearing a diaper and having a catheter to pee? All those things were so unknown and questions I needed answered before that fear could even begin to subside. The next fear is and was the fear of the future. That is still a fear to this day, but most importantly, when you're just finding out that you're paralyzed, you have no idea what that entails. What kind of assistive devices do you need? How do you need to adapt your home? What is life going to be outside of the hospital? I think, so often people are scared of hospitals, but the scariest part is leaving and not having the safety net of nurses and doctors and machines and endless amounts of equipment to help you along. Now you are on your own. That was a big fear. And now that fear of the future is, what is the rest of my day going to be like? How am I going to plan getting to work? What if it's raining out? What if it's snowing? How am I going to get around? How much am I going to work out? How much am I going to drink? It's constant questions to make sure that at the end of the day, I am back home in my bed safe and nothing bad happened to me. And I didn't hurt myself. I didn't injure myself. The next fear is an interesting one that not a lot of people know unless you have walked alongside me and noticed it yourselves. And that is perception. Constantly when I am out and about, I feel eyes on me. Always. Being a 20-year-old at the time in a wheelchair, it's a very shocking thing for a lot of people to see. Oftentimes I get the saying, you're too young to be in a wheelchair. What on earth happened? And, it's a fine line between telling people what happened and just kind of moving on and continuing on with your day. but still to this day, I have eyes on me all the time. I went from being average Joe, typical 20-year-old girl, played sports, went under the radar for the most part, to being the elephant in the room everywhere you went. And that was a very hard thing for me to get over. I'm used to it now, but still, friends, family pointed out anytime they're walking with me, oh my God, did you see that person staring at you? Like, what are they looking at? I'm like, of course, they're always looking at me, trying to figure me out, trying to figure out what is going on with me and what happened. The next fear is dating. A big fear for me was, would anyone ever love me the way I was with this handicap, with this disability? Would they be willing to take on the responsibilities that came with dating me and taking care of me? And sure, I don't need a lot of care, but there are times where, it can be very difficult for the other person. And I was very nervous I would never find someone again. Losing my identity. That was a big fear, but also a big driver. Sports was my life growing up. That's all I did besides school. I played through college, and going from a Division I athlete to nothing, it felt like nothing. I had no idea what I was supposed to do now. Would I ever play softball again? And that ended up being one of my biggest goals, was to have one more at bat in college. So, while I had this huge fear, it ended up being one of the biggest drivers of my recovery. The next fear is getting a job. Would I be taken seriously in job interviews with this disability? Would people want to take me on, given the fact that there was a huge liability as an engineer? Would I have to change my career path? All things that crossed my mind. A big one was losing people. I did lose a lot of friends through this entire process. You definitely learn who your people are and who is willing to go the extra mile to help you and do what it takes to make sure you're okay, and is willing to slow down their life to be around me, because I'm not as fast as everyone. I can't get around as easily as everyone, and sometimes it takes me a little longer to do things. So that was a big thing for me at first, was just seeing people leave my life. A big fear is more surgery. Every time I go I've had 3 more surgeries since the first one, and every time I go into the operating room, the 1% seems like not the 99% to me. I was the 1%, I am the 1%, and now going into every surgery, that 1% seems gigantic to me. Anything is possible within that 1%, and your life can drastically change with such a small statistic. So that's still, every time I go in, and I know my parents are just as scared for me every time I go into surgery. Another fear is incontinence. A lot of people don't understand that when you're paralyzed, you don't just lose your mobility, you lose your bowel and your bladder. And for me, when I feel the urge to urinate, I have 4 minutes to get to a bathroom. So in the back of my head, wherever I go, I always know, or try to know, where the nearest bathroom is, because that's very important. Otherwise, I will have a very embarrassing moment and have to end my night. And that's not something anyone wants to do, but it's something you always have to think about. Oh, another big fear for me is holding people back. I struggle a lot with going out with my friends or family, because I feel like if I go, then they might not be able to do everything they wanted to, or they might not be able to, go out as long, or they might not feel obligated to hang back with me. And I don't want to hold people back with my disability, and I think that goes along with losing people, is that I've learned who the people are in my life that I want to hang out with and that want to hang out with me. And they would rather hang out with me and slow down their life than have a really crazy, wild night out. And the last fear is fear of failure. This overcomes me more often than not. I consistently catch myself saying, before I even try it, that I can't do it. And I've been really trying to turn I can'ts into I cans lately, and I think this vlog is a very prime example of that. And I don't know what I can do until I try it, and I have to be willing to take that leap. And though it might be scary and I'm very fearful of it, you can't achieve or overcome anything until you turn your I can'ts into your I cans, and they soon turn into I did. So fear is a large part of my journey, and not too many people, I think, see that. And I thought that would be a very important topic to discuss today in the Vulnerability Week, because yes, I never cried when I found out that my life changed forever, but I was so scared, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I had so many questions, and without my family, friends, doctors, nurses to get me through, I would not be where I am today. And without turning fear into goals and achievements, I would not be where I am today. So I think it's very important to just turn those fears into your achievements, turn I can'ts into I cans and I dids, and live your life, live the new normal, adapt. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you guys consistently giving me support and urging me to tell my story more and being there for me, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this. So again, thank you so much. Please subscribe. Please follow me on Instagram. And I look forward to telling you more about vulnerability in the coming week. Thanks. Bye.